For this project, I'm going to be using, for the yellow part, cadmium yellow medium, raw sienna or yellow ochre, ultramarine violet, and white, titanium white. I'm going to start with a combination of raw sienna and ultramarine and cadmium yellow medium, and I'm going to put some ultramarine violet and white. So for the first layer, first of all, I primed my canvas in ultramarine violet. Canvas is primed already with a wash of ultramarine violet. I'm going to start with the top part of the wall up here. I'm going to mix yellow, cadmium yellow medium, and raw sienna or yellow ochre, whatever you have. And I'm going to put a bit of the ultramarine violet. Ultramarine violet is not a thick, opaque color, so it doesn't take over, but it makes my yellow darker. And the reason I'm using violet or purple is just because purple is opposite yellow on the color wheel. It will darken my yellow. So I'm going to put a first layer on top right there, and that's a very good color. It's like a medium tone, not too dark, not too light. This is where this line is where the shadow is. I just kept kind of a bit of line for me here, guideline, to know where the light is and where the shadow is. This is a project that has a lot of sun and shadow, which is great for learning how to do this. First layer, I'm just going to apply this medium tone all over. Let's go over the tree a bit. Even if it turns green, it doesn't matter. Even if the yellow turns green. I'm going to put a bit of more purple in here. This is first layer. I will be adding highlights and darks where when it's dry, another layer of highlights and darks. Dark yellow and light yellow. Acrylic dries darker, so I always wait for it to dry before I decide what the value and what colors I want to add. Okay, this one. this part. This is medium tone. This is not dark, not too light, not too dark. It's in between. I know underneath the tree it's very, very dark. So we will glaze this when it's dry. And I'm going to push that to this side. And here too. Go over the tree a bit. There we go. Okay, this part is done. It's I just need to dry a bit before I start the next layer. So I'm gonna blow dry this with a hair dryer. Now that this area is dry, the yellow, I'm gonna go back and take ultramarine violet, put a bit of white in it, just a tiny bit. Don't take your white too much. Don't take too much white in here. Just a bit, and bring some of this dark yellow in. I'm just darkening my yellow, but I don't want to use just ultramarine violet and yellows. I need that white a bit in there because it's not a very dark. It is underneath the tree, this area, but it's still, you could see the yellow in there. Okay, see? I'm gonna dry darker. I think more of the ultramarine in here. Yeah, that's it. Less white, more ultramarine, less white. I went too dark. And I'm just gonna clean it up a bit with some yellow. Let it dry. I'll adjust the color after. Now, I'm gonna go to yellow and raw sienna, or yellow and yellow ochre, white. Another color that can be used is Naples yellow, but Naples yellow is softer, so it will turn the yellow into more of an off-white, soft pastel color. So if you like that, by all means use that. Use Naples yellow. A lot of variation of yellows. Use whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever you like. I'm sure any yellow will look great. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow over here. So this is the wall behind the tree. It really doesn't have to be in any kind of specific shape. I'm going to be putting a tree here, so I don't think we have a problem. We need to do anything to show a specific shape here. All right, so this is kind of maybe dry, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and take more of, a little bit more of the raw sienna or yellow ochre, whatever you're using. And soften this, because this is drying really kind of dark. So I'm just gonna put a layer, kind of like a glaze, a thin layer of yellow raw sienna or yellow ochre, just to bring the color more back to yellow than the brown that I was seeing there. Okay, so in here, next is this part. In here, there's a little window in the store that has a strong light in it. I can see the light halfway. There's a dress in this window. It's a store. Okay, and of course, as well, there's a strong shadow right here. Okay. Now, we've done this part. What I'm going to do now is, if by the way, the color here, if you like to change the color a bit, make it more yellowish, less of the dark in there, like the greenish part that's showing, that's fine. Go for it. This is still in the shadow part. These areas are in the shadow part, the dark ones. So we can go back and touch more kind of a yellowish. It will dry darker. If it's not thick, it will dry darker. If you do a kind of a glaze, so your color is not thick, using glazing medium or white or water, a bit of water, And that will give the wall a bit of texture too, which is nice. Okay, it's good. All right. Everything's drying. It's going to be drying great. Now, this needs to be dry again, so I'm going to dry it with a hair dryer. I zoomed in on this area here and this because this is where we're going to be putting I'm going to be putting the dabbles of sun. So I have here a couple of different round brushes. They're not expensive. This is Simply Simmons, and this one is called Lacome round brush. It's a good quality round brush. It's kind of tapers into a really soft and not very soft. It's not watercolor. It is for acrylics, but it is really round and clean. These two are the same. Huh? Okay, so I'm going to start with the highlight part. So I'm going to take my color, yellow, any yellow, preferably the yellow, both of those yellows, raw umber, raw sienna and cadmium yellow, medium. Put in them enough white in there, give me a strong highlight. But at the same time, you want to see the yellow, so it's a light yellow. Okay, wipe my brush. Then I'm going to come here and very carefully start applying those dabs of sun. It is really kind of controlled brush stroke. Some of the dabs of sun are strong, some of them are not. Some of them are kind of faded. Different shapes, different sizes. This is what the leaves are letting the sun through. So really it depends on the leaves of the tree. So this is not to do wispy. It's not wispy. That's sometimes a mistake people do, is that they do wispy because they see it as wispy, but it is wispy, but it's controlled wispy or controlled wisp of brush stroke. You know, sometimes this when you're putting it on, it doesn't make sense. But later on, when the tree is on, like when we have the tree done and putting the leaves and everything, all of this will make sense. Right now, it might look funny, but give it time. When we get to the tree side, to the tree, and then we start putting the leaves and everything, that will look really, really nice. Try not to put the same size. keep an eye on that. It's a lovely, lovely thing to see when you're walking around in sunny places. This is in Greece. So, you know, Greek sun is very strong, and it's beautiful. Some dots. And that's it. Done. Right, next, other side. First, actually, let's do this, because we have just a couple in here. You know, on this side, there's nothing because of the balcony, but the balcony is casting a shadow over the wall. But I'm just going to add one or two here, like just a couple, just so that it doesn't look like this one is done and the other wall is not. So now I'm going to move in to this part. If you look at the reference I sent you, I emailed, you will see that I simplified the wall in here. In the reference, there's some kind of a corner that goes in and out, and it just kind of looked too much work for me. So I simplified it. I just made a corner. Just simple corner. The highlights or the dabs of sun are going the opposite way. One is coming, the wall is coming one this way, and the other part is going the other way. So the dabbles of sun or dabs of sun are following the direction of the wall. Same on this side. I'm just going to add a couple, although they're not there, but I find that stopping the dabbles of sun in just one corner and then nothing on the other corner looks a bit strange. Okay, I think we're good. I don't think we need more than that. I'm just adding a little bit more highlights on some of these dabs of sun, because I wait for them to dry and then I'll go back and adjust. Okay. All right, that looks good. Right, now, again, this part up here is completely dry, and I can see that it is not sunny enough, so it's not light enough. I'm going to take white and yellow, even if it's just cadmium yellow medium. We need that sunny part to be really strong, almost like washed out. Okay. There. And again, this will dry darker. So I'm always, I know at first when we put the colors like very strong and too light, but you know what? Just wait for it to dry. Honestly, you need to wait for it to dry. Changes. I can still see the railing, even though I'm going over it. And I'm going to do the same down here. There. Perfect. Okay. A little bit of whitish dabble here, like white and yellow. Okay. Done. Now we move on into the blue that we're putting on the doors. I'm going to be changing my water from the yellow and be back. For the blue part, I'm going to be using cerulean blue and Payne's gray and white. So I'm going to mix my cerulean blue. Actually, let's clean my brush from white. Take cerulean blue and Payne's gray, mix it. That will make my cerulean blue darker. Bit of white and we don't want to go too dark. Not there. I mean, here, yes. Down here, the bottom part, yes. We want that dark. And actually, we'll start with that. So I'm going to take, again, my Payne's gray, cerulean blue, put a bit of white in it. Not much, just a touch. Gauge, see how much blue you want in there. And I'm going to come here. And just kind of start putting my blue for the door. Clean my brush. Okay, again, inside. The door. all of this is, most of it is in the shadow area. That's good. All right, let's do the window frame, and it's in the same blue. I usually go whatever, you know, if it's the tree, if the tree is hanging over, I go over that with my whatever I'm putting color, just a little bit, so I don't get a sharp line. I can always hang the tree over it, or paint the tree over, I should say. The bright brush, I'm using a bright brush or flat. Actually, bright is better because it, you know, shorter bristle, not too long. Should be clean. It should taper to a clean kind of tip. Shouldn't be an old one because you're not gonna get straight line, good straight line with an old brush. This side of the another window in here, I will highlight later on what needs to be highlighted. For now, I'm just putting the color. Okay, now let's take a small brush, round brush, and go here in between where the bicycle is, or the bicycle handle. It doesn't have to be perfect because we can go over that. Okay. This is the first layer, no highlights, only first layer. So all of this is done, and I'm going to let it dry. And now I'm going to go up to the shutters that are on top. The shutters on top are not dark blue, they're light blue. So I'm just going to add white to my blue, the combination I have. Just add white. Doesn't have to be really like washed out white. Mid-tone is fine. So I'm gonna do the same with these up here. there's a layer of light blue coming over on this. So this is just the first layer, and it doesn't have to be thick. This part of the balcony, or the painting, I should say, is not a focal point. So usually I try not to spend too much time there. Just put kind of what I want to show, just kind of a backdrop for what, or background for what is the focal point. It just gives it a much more interesting look than having it cut off and having nothing on top there in this area. Okay, so I can still see the lines, and I'm gonna let it dry. Just gonna add a slightly darker blue on this side. One more layer. I'm gonna go dry it and come back. Okay, so this area is dry. So I'm gonna come now and take my blue. I can take just cerulean blue. No need to use Payne's gray, and white. Lots of white. It's like a light cerulean blue. Clean my brush. And I'm going to come here. There's a line that goes across from the corner. Actually, I should do this so you can see. Okay, from the corner of this door up to this point where there's a strong light. So what I'm going to do is make sure that I paint the highlight where that line is. Maybe the best thing to do is to put a kind of a guideline so I don't go over that. Go down. Use a smaller brush. Trying to keep a straight line, but it's almost impossible. That's okay, because I can add the lines after for the shutters. I don't have to do it right now. To define the shape of the door. Right now, all I'm concerned about is making sure I put the light part where it's supposed to be. And then if I need to go back and adjust my lines, or if I lose the shape of the shutters, that's okay. I can go back and put them in easily. Okay, so while I'm doing this highlight, I'm going to highlight the window on this side as well. Might as well do it. And then I'll go back to this to adjust a bit the details. Okay. Now I can leave this just the way it is if I like, if I don't want to go into detail, or I could take a round brush and just simply, let's see, take this one, and simply have to pause 1 minute. I had to plug my computer in because I was running out of battery. Okay, so for this part, let's take Payne's Gray and Cerulean Blue, and we can come here and add with a good brown brush or a blue felt pen. That will work too. Let's add the detail of the window that I lost. Just cleaning up. Okay. You're welcome to put the slats or not. It's up to you. I'm going to put a hint. I am not doing any kind of detailed work here. I'm going to leave this just the way it is. There's a railing is going to come here and some iron work in front, so I really don't want to block that detail, which is going to be much more important than the slats of the window. All right, I'm just going to put here a couple. And right here. Again, this is really not very important. This is kind of there, but it's not important. This is the window itself. I am going to simplify a lot of these details because the tree is going to be coming over here, over most of this. Not only all the leaves of the tree are going to cover most of this. Right, so I'm not spending too much time on this on purpose. And you can see it's not that clean, but it's not important. Cleaned up a bit. But honestly, it's not that important. The less detail here, the better. Okay, let's leave it at this. I can fix it up later on. All right, anything that needs to be fixed will be done later. Okay, I think for today, this is kind of enough. I can easily work on this part, the door, but actually I will try. This has a bit more detail than the rest. The door has a little bit more detail than the rest of the than the window. So for the door, I'm going to take white, put some cerulean blue in it, make a not as light as the one up the door that we were working on before. It's kind of in between because this door here is darker blue than the one up there. But I'm going to do a little bit of a highlight in here. Let's see if I need to add more white. Yeah. I try to keep my brush wet, kind of like not too thick. The paint shouldn't be too thick. I'm going to try to go in. And really try to simplify this as much as possible. There are too many lines in that wooden part of the door in the original one. We should be putting some of them, but not too much. Now, this door has too many ins and, too many detail. So I'm going to simplify the detail. This part of the door, of the panel, the bottom part and this bottom part are highlighted. This part here, and I'm going to keep in mind that I have a shadow in here that's going straight down. I'll highlight this part too. And I'm going to take same. I'm really simplifying this door. There's no way too much detail on the original one. Okay, that's good. I'm going to mix a little bit of a darker blue, or put some more blue in here with my white and soften this so it's not too light. Take a medium brush, flat, small, thick, and try to highlight this door a bit. Again, I don't want it to be too light. It's medium blue. So in this area at the bottom, I'll show you right here. This is dark. There's shadow in there. And in some parts in here too. There. Again, right here. Highlights are not all the way. So something like that. Like this. I think I should let it dry because it's lifting right now. I'm going to leave this part for next week, so I don't want to mess it up. Because if I try to work on this right now, I think I'm going to mess it up because it's not it's not drying fast. Right, let's leave this till next week, and I'll work on this again next week. All right. We'll work on this. We'll continue this project next week.